Hi, in this video, I'm going to show you how to make your own custom MIDI and OSC interface using OpenStage Control. Let's begin. Okay, so here we go. Well, first you need to download OpenStage Control. If you're having trouble installing it or running it on Mac or Windows, it probably requires some permission. On Mac, you just need to right-click the application and select Open. Then it will show you the option to open it regardless of not being an authorized developer. And that's it, right? On Windows, maybe you need to go into more info when you open it, and then it enables you the option to open it or run it. Okay. Right. Then you need to set up a virtual MIDI bus. So I highly recommend this article. Here it shows you how to set up a virtual MIDI bus on Mac and Windows. And if you're on Windows like me, you need to install Loop MIDI. So after you've installed Loop MIDI, it should look something like this. If you're having trouble with the installation, just uninstall it and reinstall it. I had a similar issue with that. And well, it should look something like this. And if you don't have a loop MIDI port, you just need to add one right here on the lower left corner. Okay. And once you've done that, now you can just close it and it will be running on the background. Okay. Now let's open up OpenStage Control. And here we have the server options, right? So let's first list the MIDI devices here on the lower left corner. There it says list MIDI devices. There we go. And here you have your inputs and here you have your outputs. So first here on MIDI, let's write DAW. That's the name of my device. You can name it whatever you want. So DAW 2 points or colon. Without any spaces, we write the MIDI input. Since we don't want to receive any MIDI input, we type -1, right? But we do want to send it to our virtual MIDI bus so we can interface with other MIDI applications. So we do 2 here, right? So loop MIDI port is output number 2. So we receive nothing and we send to MIDI output number 2. Okay, once that's done, now we can run the server by clicking the play button and we create a new session. Again, the 3 dots, session, new session. Awesome. Now on the project tree, we right click and add a tab, right click again and add a tab. So this is really important. The root needs to be empty. There needs to be no widgets to let you add tabs, right? So that's a must, okay? Then if you don't see the project tree, it's probably disabled. So you would need to go to the 3 dots editor and enable the project tree right here. Okay, now let's add a button. So we send a MIDI note message and a slider. So we send control change MIDI message. Okay, so right click, add a widget, basics button. There we go. And you can interact with it if you go Control E on Windows or Command E on Mac. And there you can interact with your interface. So right now we see that this is more like a toggle. We want this to be more like a push button. So we select the button. So right here, this is how it looks while it's selected. And we go into button mode and select push. Now, if we go back to our play mode, we can see that it works. Okay, more like a push button. Okay, now how do we make this so that it sends MIDI data? You go to the OpenStage Control documentation, you go to MIDI messages, and here it is, note channel note velocity. Okay, here's the settings we need to copy and paste to send MIDI note number 60, which is C4. You go into OSC with the button 1 selected. And on address, you paste this or type /note. And on preargs, we need open bracket 1 for the MIDI channel, comma, space, 60 for the MIDI note, C, which is C4. Okay, there we go, pre-args, great. And on target, we need to type MIDI colon, and then the name of our device, which is DAW. And on, we need to do a MIDI velocity that it goes from 1 to 127. So I'm going to do the highest velocity, which is 127. And I also want this button to have no labels and look more like a circular button. So I think it's over here. Oh, here it says on style, under style and button style label, we can turn that off. And on style, its border radius, we go 100. There we go. Now it looks more like a circle. We just need to adjust it so that it's more like a circle. And there we go. Okay. And to verify that we're indeed sending the MIDI data, you can install protocol. And if you have your settings enabled correctly, then you could just press this button. And here you would see that it shows that we are sending a note on and note off message for channel 1, MIDI note number 60, 127 when it's note on, and 0 when it's note off. Great. Now, let's do a slider. So right click and let's add a slider right here. Sliders, fader, there you go. And for this one, we need to follow the other guide, which is right here. It's control channel CC value right here on the same documentation page for MIDI messages. And we just do basically the same, only the range will be different. And that's pretty much it. And the value here. So address / control. For pre-args, we select open bracket 1 for MIDI channel 1 and 7 for to send number CC7. Okay, now that that's done, we need also to do target MIDI 2 dots or colon DAW, and the range, which is here on fader, needs to be 127. And that's it, I think, because now let's go here and let's move this. And yes, we are sending the MIDI data to the loop MIDI port. Great. Okay, now let's interface this with Ableton. So let's open up Ableton. And if we go into options, okay. Oh, it's loading. There we go. If we go into options, preferences, then we go to link tempo MIDI. We need the MIDI port for the loop MIDI port here on the input. It needs to be enabled on both track and remote. Okay. We don't need to send it to loop MIDI port. We just need to receive, right? Not send. So this should be, only this one should be enabled. So if you have any others, you can also just turn them off. I think it's okay. Okay, unless you're using 2 MIDI devices, okay? Now we can close this off and let's load an instrument on a MIDI track. Let's load here operator. Let's go back to our interface here. And we can hear that our button works, okay? And now let's assign the slider. That should be on the upper right corner. You select MIDI. You select the thing you want to control, which is in this case, the slider. Then go back to your interface, move it. And there you should, it should assign CC7 to operator 1 mixer track volume. There we go. And to finish this process, you just click again on the MIDI button located here on the upper right corner. Okay, great. Now let's see if this works. We lower the volume down. There, it works. Great. So how to add a label and I don't know, more buttons and more sliders. Well, basically you need to change the ID. So if I'm going to make another slider, I can just copy and paste this. Copy, paste, there we go. but then it has the same ID. And so if I move it, it's basically the same slider. So I don't want that. So we need to change the ID to fader 2. And I would need to change the CC to something different. Instead of 7, I should change it to 8. And then I need to go back to Ableton and assign it to another fader. Okay. And for the next one, it would be the button. So how do I make another note? Well, we also need to change here this for button 2. And we also need to change the pre-arcs to another note, right? Like 63 or something. You can move them by dragging the upper left corner, and there we go. Now, right, there we have 2 different notes. Great. Now, how do we add a label? So click here on add widget and then text, and then go to value, and you can type what you want to show there. So in this case, I will do C4, okay? And I don't want background, so I go into style, color, fill, and I change this so it doesn't have any background here, this slider. Okay, but it's too tiny, right? The text is too tiny, and how do I change it? Well, that can be changed. You need to go to the community section of Open Stage Control and search for text size. And is this thread right here? This is how I got it to work. You can just copy this message and paste it on the CSS under style, and then click on another thing, and there you go. If you want to change the size, you can just change the number here and click again on something else, and there you go, C4. And so if you want another one, you can just copy that, paste it. And again, you also need to change the ID. So this is text 2. And I don't know, this, I guess 63 is C, C sharp. It would be D, D sharp. I think it would be D sharp 4. So there you go. And now it's different if the text ID is the same. Then if you change the value, both they will have different names, right? And we don't want that. And so now it works, and this is great. We have big labels, and we can change the colors and etc. Right? Cool. And we have yet another tab where we could add another controls. And well, now we just need to save this. So save this. I'm going to save it in my desktop. And let's see, this test 1, 2, 3, right? Save it, and then you can just close it. Over here, let's go to the server, stop it, stop the server. And if you want, if you're ready to use this control to perform, now you just need to preload it over here. And we go into desktop. It should have saved as 1, 2, 3, but I guess it didn't save on desktop. I guess it was saved on my users. Let me check users. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, I needed to select, double click on desktop to save it there. Okay, but basically there it is. And now it's preloaded. And now let's click on read only, true. So we don't, edit by accident. And then we can just click play. And there we go. Here we have our interface. And if you want to use your phone to control it, you just scan the QR code. And that's basically it. Another thing that some of you asked on the Discord was, how do I send 2 CCs on the XY widget? So I found this on the community forum. So here it is. You just scroll down on this thread, and here it is. You just copy this on value. Paste that. And that's basically it. So I hope you learned something and have fun. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.